Mrs. R.
Ah, how is that? Now then, which one of you two is Mr. and Mrs. R?
We are.
Do you want this privately or on the national health?
National Health.
Now then, what appears to be the trouble?
It's me husband.
Husband? You want a solicitor, not a doctor.
No, me husband is ill, seriously. Suddenly can't talk proper like.
Has he ever talked proper like?
Oh, yes. But recently he's become very difficult to live with.
Do you find him trying?
Aye. Last night I found him trying with Mrs. Soper on the back step.
That's not an illness.
I soon had one, though. I fetched him one on the back of his nut with a coal shovel. She screams, and I belted him on the back of his nut again. I said, Bert, will you stop doing it when I'm trying to talk to her? It was that last blow that done something to his voice.
What?
You tell him, Bert.
Good heavens. The witch of like I never have I not seen, which in my whole career, etc. Say the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy cow. Does he know little Jack Horner?
If he lives in Deptford, yes.
No, I mean the nursery rhyme. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no known cure for this disease. Therefore, there can be no known ending to this sketch.
The Goon Who Never Quite Landed. A biography of Spike Milligan. Terence Alan Milligan, forever known as Spike, was a comedic force of nature. More than just a comedian, he was a writer, musician, poet, actor, and a restless, multifaceted artist who left an indelible mark on British comedy and beyond. His groundbreaking work with The Goon Show revolutionized radio comedy and laid the groundwork for much of the absurdist, surreal, and often chaotic humor that followed. But behind the laughter and the anarchic wit lay a complex and often tormented individual, battling mental illness, questioning societal norms, and perpetually searching for meaning in a world he viewed with a mixture of cynicism and childlike wonder. Born in Ahmednagar, India, on April 16, 1918, to Leo Alphonso Milligan, an Irish soldier in the British Army, and Florence Mary Kettleband, of English and Welsh descent, Terence's early life was defined by the rigid structures of the British Raj. This experience instilled in him a lifelong disdain for authority and a deep identification with the underdog, themes that would permeate his later work. He later said, "I was born in India, they never knew what to do with me." Milligan's childhood was relatively uneventful, a mix of military base life and boarding school in England. He displayed an early talent for music, teaching himself the trumpet and later the guitar and piano. The family returned to England permanently in 1933, settling in Brockley, southeast London. However, the outbreak of World War II irrevocably altered his trajectory. Drafted into the Royal Artillery in 1939, Milligan initially embraced the camaraderie and purpose that military life offered. He quickly rose to the rank of lance bombardier but soon grew disillusioned with the senselessness and bureaucracy of war. It was during this period, however, that his comedic talents began to emerge. He honed his skills performing in concert parties and entertaining his fellow soldiers with his offbeat humor and musical parodies. His experiences in the war, detailed in his semi-autobiographical war memoirs, particularly Adolf Hitler, My Part in His Downfall, were a rich source of inspiration, shaping his absurdist worldview and fueling his relentless satire of military pomp and circumstance. It was also during the war that Milligan met Harry Seacombe and Peter Sellers. This fateful encounter would prove to be the catalyst for The Goon Show, a radio program that would redefine British comedy. Post-war, Milligan, struggling to find his place in a regimented society, worked as a jazz musician, honing his skills and developing his improvisational abilities. He played in various bands, often with Seacombe, laying the foundation for their future collaborations. In 1951, The Goon Show, originally titled Crazy People, burst onto the BBC airwaves. Starring Milligan, Seacombe, and Sellers, with Michael Bentine joining and later leaving the original team, the show was a chaotic blend of surreal characters, nonsensical plots, innovative sound effects, and lightning-fast wordplay. Milligan was the primary writer, though the others contributed significantly, and his manic energy and boundless imagination were the driving force behind the show's unique brand of anarchic humor. Characters like Eccles, Bluebottle, and Major Bloodknock became household names, their catchphrases echoing in playgrounds and pubs across Britain. The Goon Show was a rebellion against the staid and predictable nature of post-war British society, a celebration of the absurd, and a rejection of conformity. It was a critical and popular success, attracting a devoted following and influencing generations of comedians. However, the success of The Goon Show came at a personal cost. The pressure of writing and performing, coupled with his pre-existing mental health issues, began to take a toll on Milligan. He suffered a severe nervous breakdown in 1952, requiring psychiatric treatment and hospitalization. This marked the beginning of a lifelong battle with bipolar disorder, which he referred to as my black dog. Despite his struggles with mental illness, Milligan continued to write and perform. He produced a prodigious body of work, including books, plays, television shows, and poetry. His semi-autobiographical war memoirs, starting with Adolf Hitler My Part in His Downfall, 1971, were critically acclaimed for their wit, honesty, and poignant portrayal of the absurdity of war. His children's books, such as Bad Jelly, The Witch and Puckoon, showcased his playful imagination and love of nonsense. He also starred in several television series, including Q5, a sketch show that mirrored the surreal and anarchic spirit of The Goon Show, and made numerous guest appearances on other programs. Milligan's poetry, often characterized by its childlike simplicity and absurdist humor, resonated with a wide audience. He wrote extensively on themes of loneliness, alienation, and the search for meaning in a meaningless world. His poems, often deceptively simple on the surface, dealt with complex emotions and profound philosophical questions. One of his most famous poems, On the Ning Nang Nong, became a staple in primary schools across the UK, introducing generations of children to the joy of wordplay and nonsense. Throughout his life, Milligan remained a staunch advocate for environmentalism and animal rights. He was a vocal critic of nuclear weapons and campaigned tirelessly for a more just and compassionate world. His passion for these causes often found its way into his work, adding a layer of social commentary to his already complex and multifaceted art. Milligan's personal life was marked by both joy and turmoil. He was married 3 times and had 4 children. His relationships were often strained by his mental illness and his demanding work schedule. He was known for his volatile temper and his unpredictable behavior, but also for his generosity, kindness, and unwavering loyalty to his friends. In his later years, Milligan continued to write, perform, and campaign for the causes he believed in. He was a beloved figure in British public life, admired for his comedic genius, his artistic integrity, and his willingness to speak his mind. He received numerous awards and accolades, including an honorary doctorate from the University of Sussex and a CBE in 1992, which he famously accepted with characteristic irreverence. Spike Milligan died on February 27, 2002, at the age of 83, from liver failure. His death was met with widespread mourning and tributes poured in from across the world. His epitaph, chosen by himself, reads, "I told you I was ill." This simple statement, both humorous and poignant, perfectly encapsulates the complex and contradictory nature of the man. Spike Milligan was more than just a comedian. He was a visionary artist, a social critic, and a deeply sensitive human being. He challenged the status quo, pushed the boundaries of comedy, and inspired countless others to embrace their own individuality and creativity. His legacy lives on in his vast body of work, in the laughter he brought to millions, and in the enduring influence he had on British comedy and beyond. He was a goon who never quite landed, a restless spirit who constantly sought to make sense of the world, and in doing so, made it a more interesting, more absurd, and ultimately, more joyful place.